You are listening to Truth Today Radio. This show sponsored by USI Graphics Design, Media Explosion 2006, and Spotlight HQ. Today's show, government-sponsored kidnapping of children for profit.
Government-sponsored kidnapping of children for profit with my special guest, Dr. Shirley Moore from California. Are you there, Dr. Moore?
Okay, thank you for having me tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, Dr. Moore. You're doing very important work, which is very close to my heart. As a matter of fact, this month's Americans Bulletin has my story, my son's story, in terms of what my son went through and is going through because of my work. Janet Phelan, America's Bulletin reporter, has written an article about what Joey Carley has gone through because of what his mother does. And this is very important information for people to know, that the courts are actually stealing children and doing all kinds of evil things to them for cash. And so I encourage all of the listeners to check out this July month issue of America's Bulletin for that story. It will also be on my website very shortly. But, Dr. Moore, you have gone to the heart of the beat, and you have actually uncovered exactly what they're doing in terms of the children, how they're stealing them, why they're stealing them, and how they're making big dollars by doing so. I want to just give out your website, Dr. Shirley Moore, that's MOORE.com.
Right.
And if you go to her website and click on Next, and then go to Media Release, and then click on page 47, please tell the listeners what they will find there, Dr. Moore, because this is quite an article that you have on your website.
Oh, God. So you had an opportunity. So you had an opportunity to read it?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. You click on Next. When you get on the second page, go down in the body of the second page and click the media release, and then go to page 47. It's called Creative Financing, and I believe that your listeners will be quite interested in what we've discovered here in California. I'm sure it's happening in this.
What have you discovered? Yes, it's very important.
Okay, well, what we basically found out is that these board of supervisors, your county board of supervisors, what they do, they create these phony nonprofits, and then they appoint people to sit on the boards. For example, here in L.A., they appointed a judge, and what they do, they say that it's private. This is how they're able to circumvent the will of the people as far as taxing you without allowing you to vote, and this enables them to not disclose certain things to you because they call it private, but at the same time, tax dollars are being paid for it. So what they're doing, they go out and they take the land and they build courthouses and they build parking lots and golf courses and different things at taxpayers' expense, and you have no say about anything. The only thing they do is make you pay for it. And then they offer these bonds with the presentation as if it were municipal bonds. So these bondholders are being paid dividends, and the truth of the matter is that they're really not municipal bonds because it's private. You never know who the bondholders are because that's in the blind. Number two, they do not offer these bonds to the people in the state of California. They go outside the state. They're called COP, Certificates of Participation. So when you question them, they say, oh, this is a government entity, but then on the other hand, they didn't let you vote on any of the development. And on the other side, then they'll tell you, well, it's private, we don't have to disclose. And what they're doing, they're constantly refinancing these loans over and over and over to the tune of millions and millions of dollars at taxpayers' expense. But what is so ironic is that my belief is that the reason that they're behaving the way they're acting in the courthouse is because they're not really private anymore. They're not really public, they're private, because we found that the judge owned the courthouse. And if you read the article, you will see that it was quit claim back to the county. So if the county owns it, how do you quit claim something to yourself that you already own? Number two, like I said before, there's no disclosure. So therefore, you're paying trillions and trillions of dollars, and they're constantly refinancing and refinancing. And I'm of the suspicion that the bondholders are themselves at the taxpayer's expense. So I think that you might find it interesting, but I'd also ask people if they get an opportunity. You might have to read it twice because it is a little complicated, but as you begin to read it, you'll be able to understand what they've done. They've really made it very complex so that the average citizen wouldn't be able to understand it. But if you begin to read it over and over, you'll be able to see this web that they've weaved.
Exactly. And you stated what you stated without too much emotion and just gave out information. I just want to highlight the facts, is that it's not just that they're making the courts into a private enterprise. In other words, a money-making enterprise.
Right.
They're stealing children and making money off stealing the children. That is the key factor here, because this is so evil. I mean, your children are your most precious possession. This is something that people in this country, as a rule, just take for granted. We have our children, and this is our right to have our children, and our children belong to us. But in ever-increasing numbers all over this country, this is not just happening in California.
It's happening all over.
In every state. They are taking children for bogus reasons,
right?
Especially medical neglect, saying that they're not getting inoculated with disease, or dental neglect, that you don't want to get them fluoridated or have mercury fillings put in them, or whatever excuse they want to come up with, and stealing your children on that behalf, and then making all kinds of money out of putting them into foster care, adopting them out. And if you could just talk about, Dr. Moore, how President Clinton was involved in this, and the, executive orders that he
before
put.
I go there, I would like to say it's ironic that you would say that, because when I was able to cause the Los Angeles County to reinvestigate the 30,000 foster care cases, and in that investigation, they admitted that 50% of the children could have stayed home. They admitted that they targeted the poor and that they did it for the financial incentives. Now, think of this. People go there every day. They're crying. They're screaming for their children. They had been ignored. What caused that investigation was that I got my hands on the deed to the children's courthouse, and I saw that one of the board of supervisors was the owner of it. His name was there. So what I said, holding the deed, is that, first of all, every case needs to be reopened, because no parent has given jurisdiction to their children for a private corporation. They all believed that this was a public entity. Based upon that, every case has to be revisited. So I caught them. That's what created that investigation into the LA County, because I had the deed. So I'm saying that to say, if you go into the courts and you are with the belief that this is a public enterprise and you find out that it's private, to me, everything should be revisited, because people are not giving up their rights or submitting their children or their liberties to a private corporation. And that's what I call real, blatant, intrinsic fraud.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Especially that it involves the children. I mean, that is so heinous, it's beyond the pale. And people think that these agencies were developed to protect children, and what they're actually doing is stealing children.
That's what they're doing.
For bogus reasons. I mean, the really endangered children are not being helped at all.
No.
As a matter of fact, there was just a case here in North Carolina, excuse me, a couple of months ago. There was a mother that was caught filming her, I think it was 2-year-old child, smoking marijuana. She had it on videotape. She was videotaping her 2-year-old child smoking marijuana. It was on tape, so there was no question as to whether or not this had happened. They didn't take away that child from its mother. Apparently, the goal of the government is to make as many children as possible damaged, and that is the reason they probably left this child with its mother. But the children that are, especially the ones not being vaccinated, and they're going after them for medical neglect, those are the children that are at risk of being taken away from their families. And that is so ludicrous. We just saw what happened in Texas when over 400 children were taken away from their mothers at that ranch down there. And, of course, I have a problem with
the Mormons, right.
Yeah, I have a problem with this whole idea of men having multiple wives and all of that stuff. But, you know, the fact that they're able to just swoop in as they do and steal the children, and then they go to court to see if they have a case. What's up with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you should have to prove that there's a problem before you're even able to take the child away from the family. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But I think that goes back into this, the way they're doing everything. They're arresting people now on just suspicion, and they're supposed to charge them within 72 hours, but they're just holding them indefinitely. I don't know what's going on, but this seems to be a practice and a pattern. I don't know if it has something to do with this Patriot Act, and they're using it on the local level, but this holding people indefinitely, taking people's children on a might be or it could be, or arresting people on a might be and a could be, and just holding them, and while you try to build a case, to me that's illegal. But they're doing it, and no one is addressing it.
Of course it's illegal. It's a violation of our human rights, our constitutional rights, and it's happening every day. And that's
every day.
That's what people have to wake up and realize, because one of the problems that I see in this country it's really the biggest problem is that so many people just don't seem to care about what's happening, as long as it hasn't touched them yet. You know, it's just like in Nazi Germany. As long as it's not affecting them or somebody they love, then they're just grateful that it hasn't happened to them yet.
Right.
They don't do anything. They don't stand up. They don't speak out. They don't care. And, of course, it's going to come to your door next, folks.
Yes.
If you don't do anything. And this children stealing situation has, grown to where they're taking thoroughbred animals under the guise of animal protection. There's many people all over this country that are losing their thoroughbred horses and dogs and every animal you can imagine based on animal protection, which is another scam, and taking your property under eminent domain.
Right.
You can take everything you have, and that's what they're doing. And that's why I always laugh as I watch C-SPAN every morning, the show Washington Journal. And they have a call-in where people can call in and talk about whatever issue they want to talk about, or also ask questions of the guest. And oftentimes, the guest is talking about how America is now a police force going out into the world and bringing our quote-unquote democracy to other countries like Iraq. What a joke. I mean, our country is the most corrupt country on the face of the planet. So for us to go out and pretend that we're going to bring our quote-unquote freedoms to other countries.
And we're losing ours here.
Exactly. It's a joke.
Well, I was... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I want you to speak.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that it's a joke for us to be a police enforcer and be out there pretending that we're bringing freedoms to other countries when our country is the one that's totally corrupt and evil. We are the evil empire, and it's really amazing. We're seeing now things are happening so quickly as we're being brought into the New World Order. Our financial institutions are falling apart. Every day there's some other thing going on in the news.